The discovery of this slab of black basalt marked the beginning of modern archaeology. It was the key which unlocked the puzzle of ancient Egyptian writing. Is probably the most important archaeological artifact in the world today.
For thousands of years, fragments of an ancient language have lingered on temple walls, clay tablets, and weathered scrolls. Silent yet valid witnesses to a civilization long since vanished. Scholars tried vainly to unlock its meaning, their efforts falling short against cryptic symbols designed to conceal rather than reveal.
This may not seem a difficult task, but no one could make progress in reading the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. The Rosetta Stone sat in the British Museum for decades. No one could decipher it. No one could crack the hieroglyphic code.
Still, they remained steadfast. And now, in an age where machines think, learn, and reason in ways once reserved for human minds, that stubbornness has finally yielded possible results. Artificial intelligence, with its unyielding logic and capacity to detect patterns invisible to us, has perhaps truly cracked the code. What emerged was not the expected chronicles of trade, myth, or ritual. Instead, the AI revealed messages so unsettling, so far removed from the narratives we have long told ourselves about the ancient world, that they seem almost otherworldly. Many are naturally intrigued by the mysterious. Some wonder if these texts contain warnings, prophecies, or perhaps accounts of knowledge and power that should not have existed at the dawn of civilization. Now, as the translation spreads, experts whisper about these unveiled truths hidden in plain sight for millennia, ones that may not only rewrite history, but also cast a long, uncertain shadow over humanity's understanding of past events. The discovery of the ancient texts. For centuries, fragments of undeciphered writing have haunted the margins of archaeology. They appear carved into stone tablets, painted on the crumbling walls of temples, or etched into fragile scrolls buried with the dead. Their characters are tantalizingly intricate rows of spirals, angular strokes, or pictographs whose meaning has been lost to time. Scholars catalogue them, debate their origins, and speculate about their purpose, but the truth of what they once conveyed has remained frustratingly out of reach. The Indus Valley script, found on seals dating back to 2600 BCE, is one of the most famous examples. Despite decades of study, no one has yet agreed on whether it even represents a full language or simply a set of symbolic markings. Similarly, the mysterious Rongorongo glyphs of Easter Island resist understanding, appearing like messages from a culture determined to guard its secrets. Proto-Elamite, the oldest known writing system from Iran, sits in the same mystery of being half decoded, half unknown, like a riddle missing its key. Without a Rosetta Stone, which is a bilingual inscription like the one that unlocked Egyptian hieroglyphs, these languages have seemed impossible to penetrate, and so they were left to time, regarded as unsolvable puzzles or whispers from civilizations that wanted their stories buried. For decades, this has held true, until now. Following the advancement of technology and innovation in the current age, artificial intelligence has found its place in society for varying roles. Where human scholars saw obstacles, AI saw patterns. This is possible because machine learning algorithms thrive on massive amounts of data, finding connections invisible to the human eye. In recent years, linguists and computer scientists have begun feeding ancient inscriptions into neural networks, asking them to do what centuries of human effort could not. In 2019, a team at MIT trained AI to recognize structural similarities between lost languages and those still in use. Their system could detect potential words that share common roots and even begin to map grammar rules. Other projects have used AI to assist in decoding cuneiform, Ugaritic, and Mayan glyphs. Their advantage is speed, which might take a linguist decades to hypothesize, and AI can suggest in hours. Yet, this breakthrough comes with unease because, unlike humans, AI has no cultural context, no ability to question whether its translations feel right. It simply calculates probabilities, stitching together patterns. That means its results can be very debatable or dangerously misleading. Scholars, of course, voiced their opinions. Who could be sure that AI might not invent connections where none exist, producing translations that are more fantasy than fact? Still, unwilling to simply dismiss its massive potential, one particular set of inscriptions was run through a cutting-edge translation model, and something remarkable and unsettling emerged. The inscriptions were expected to yield mundane information like those detailing trade records, genealogies, or perhaps fragments of mythology. This is what most ancient texts reveal when decoded, basic snapshots of daily life or reflections on the divine. But what came back from the machine was different. The AI produced translations that spoke of catastrophe. There were repeated references to a great darkness, to fire falling from the sky, to floods swallowing entire cities. The texts described rulers who claimed to receive visions from beyond the stars, and priests who warned of cycles of destruction destined to repeat across ages. One chilling passage, reconstructed from multiple fragments, appeared to describe a future age when people would harness machines of thought, tools that imitate the mind itself. The tone was not celebratory, but cautionary, as though this power came with a warning of hubris and downfall. Skeptics immediately dismissed the translation as the product of overfitting AI, forcing meaning into randomness. Yet the resonance was difficult to ignore. Ancient cultures from Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica recorded myths of disasters like floods, plagues, and divine punishments. Could this newly decoded language be another entry in that tradition? Or was it something more, a record of events that happened and might happen again? The line between myth and history has always been flimsy. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of humanity's oldest stories, contains a flood narrative strikingly similar to the biblical account of Noah. Volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, or pandemics may have been remembered as divine wrath, but this new translation carried a different flavor. Its language suggested not just a recounting of the past, but a deliberate attempt to leave a message for the future. This, of course, now leaves scholars with a dilemma. Should the translations be trusted, or taken as mere machine errors? A defining factor thus comes into play: history, historical parallels. This would not be the first time scholars have encountered mysterious texts that feel like warnings. The Voynich manuscript, discovered in the early 20th century, remains famously undeciphered, filled with bizarre plant drawings and cryptic script. Some researchers believe it to be a medieval hoax, others a coded alchemical volume, but its aura of secrecy fuels endless speculation. Similarly, Mayan glyphs were long thought impenetrable until breakthroughs in the mid-20th century revealed that they preserved not just rituals, but detailed histories of rulers, wars, and dynasties. What once seemed incomprehensible turned out to be a vivid record of a lost world. Even in the Western tradition, apocalyptic writings from the Book of Revelation to the Sibylline oracles have framed catastrophe as both history and prophecy. Civilizations repeatedly produce literature that blends the memory of disaster with the anticipation of its return. If the AI's translation is to be believed, the mysterious inscriptions fit neatly into this pattern. They describe not just a single catastrophe, but a cycle, as though humanity were doomed to repeat its mistakes. To modern eyes, this matches eerily with present fears such as climate change, nuclear war, artificial intelligence itself, and the potential implications are terrifying. On one level, they may simply reflect the universal human fear of collapse. Every civilization has faced the spectre of famine, flood, or invasion, and myths encode those anxieties. Yet the details here, the references to machines of thought, to unseen forces guiding human destiny, are difficult to explain away. Some scholars suggest the AI may have stumbled onto an unintentional mirror. In analyzing the ancient symbols, it projected contemporary anxieties, weaving them into a narrative that feels like prophecy but is really a reflection of us. In this view, the terrifying truth is not that the ancients predicted our downfall, but that we see our fears in their words. Others, however, are not so quick to dismiss. They argue that myths often preserve bits of truth, distorted over centuries. Stories of floods may recall rising seas at the end of the last ice age, and tales of fire from the sky may echo asteroid impacts. If ancient civilizations did witness cycles of disaster, they may have attempted to warn the future in the only way they could, through enduring inscriptions. The unsettling possibility remains that, what if they succeeded? What if, thousands of years ago, a culture foresaw not just their own demise, but ours, and left behind a message that we were never meant to read until the age of machines? The unsettling thing about the AI's translation was not simply what it said, but when it appeared. At a time when the world already teeters on the edge of multiple crises, ranging from environmental to political and technological ones, the words felt less like relics of the past and more like dispatches addressed to the present. To most academics, the phrasing was a coincidence, the product of statistical modeling and interpretive enthusiasm. Ancient texts, after all, are filled with apocalyptic imagery. Civilizations everywhere have feared their own undoing, and their myths often cloak natural disasters in cosmic language. The Aztecs spoke of suns destroyed in cycles, each world falling before the birth of the next. Norse mythology foretold Ragnarok, a cataclysm of fire and ice. Yet to dismiss the AI's findings as a coincidence ignores a deeper possibility that civilizations have long encoded their collapses as both memory and warning. The fall of the Akkadian Empire, the late Bronze Age collapse, and the decline of the Maya were all marked by famine, conflict, and environmental stress. Each time, survivors may have preserved fragments of explanation, mythologized into divine punishment or cosmic cycles. What chills scholars today is not that the inscriptions echo ancient anxieties, but that they appear to anticipate ours. The machines of thought described in the text are not unlike the very AI that now interprets them. If the ancients truly foresaw an age when humanity would build minds in silicon, then their warnings may not be metaphorical at all. Perhaps these inscriptions were not intended to be read until now. Their creators deliberately encoded a message designed to be unlocked only when the proper tools, such as AI itself, came into existence. The thought transforms a historical curiosity into something far more troubling. This is not just a record of the past, but a communication across millennia. Predictably, the academic world has broken down into factions. One camp celebrates the AI's achievement as revolutionary. To them, the successful decoding of a script once deemed impenetrable is proof that technology can achieve what human scholarship alone could not. They point to real successes, such as computer-assisted decipherments of Linear B, breakthroughs in Mayan glyph studies, and recent advances in reading damaged scrolls using AI-enhanced imaging. If machines can read texts we once thought lost forever, they feel it's unnecessary to doubt their accuracy here. Meanwhile, the skeptics raise important objections. They argue that AI is not a neutral instrument, but a system that reflects probabilities drawn from data. It can, for lack of a better term, hallucinate patterns where none exist. Just as humans once misread hieroglyphs as mystical symbols rather than phonetic writing, so too might machines impose false meaning on marks that are not linguistic at all. The assurance that the language is truly a system of words, and not just merely ceremonial symbols, doesn't exist. Historical flashbacks urge caution. Before the Rosetta Stone, scholars produced wildly imaginative translations of Egyptian hieroglyphs, weaving elaborate spiritual philosophies from what turned out to be tax receipts and administrative records. Similarly, early attempts to interpret cuneiform produced inconsistent results, until scholars agreed on the basics of grammar and phonetics. The danger now is, this is on a much larger scale. Where human misinterpretation once misled a handful of researchers, AI has the capacity to generate persuasive but flawed translations instantly, spreading them across the world. A fabricated meaning, repeated often enough, can solidify into accepted truth. Some critics argue that the AI has not deciphered the language at all, but merely generated a narrative that mirrors modern concerns. Yet even the skeptics cannot dismiss the uncanny precision of certain passages. The overlap between ancient imagery and modern anxieties is difficult to ignore. If the AI is fabricating, it is fabricating with eerie accuracy. If the possibilities of false information are so high, why then has the news of a new discovery seemingly taken root as though verified news? Buried voices of antiquity. As debates unfolded, rumors began to surface, even though not all of the AI's translations were made public. Certain passages, according to insiders, had been withheld by institutions overseeing the project. Officially, this was to allow further peer review before releasing potentially misleading material. Still, achievements in unearthing translations can never go unnoticed, even if still up for debate. The most recent being the translation of some parts of the Herculaneum scrolls with AI and X-rays. In the year 79 CE, Mount Vesuvius erupted with cataclysmic force, burying the Roman towns of Pompeii and Herculaneum under a torrent of ash, pumice, and volcanic gas. Pompeii became the more famous symbol of the disaster, its streets and bodies frozen in time, but Herculaneum held a quieter, more enigmatic treasure. In a lavish villa, believed by some scholars to have belonged to the father-in-law of Julius Caesar, lay a library unlike any other from the ancient world. The shelves were filled with hundreds of papyrus scrolls, tightly rolled and neatly stored. When the eruption came, they were carbonized by the intense heat and transformed into fragile, blackened cylinders of ash, yet against all odds, they survived. Survival, though, was not the same as accessibility. For nearly 2,000 years, the scrolls remained unreadable. Every attempt to unroll them ended in disaster, as the papyri would simply crumble into dust, their inked words lost forever. Scholars could only imagine the philosophical, literary, and historical works hidden inside. Some dared to hope that these texts might even contain lost works of Greek philosophy, unknown plays, or writings from authors otherwise lost to history. The collection became known as the Herculaneum Scrolls, the only surviving library from antiquity. The frustration of the Herculaneum Scrolls lay in their nature of being preserved but inaccessible, present but silent. In the 18th and 19th centuries, inventors designed elaborate machines to unroll them carefully, but most attempts ended with shattered fragments and smudged ink. A few texts were partially recovered, mostly works by the Greek philosopher Philodemus, but the vast majority remained locked inside carbonized shells. For centuries, the scrolls were regarded as a tragic curiosity. Scholars believed that, if only they could unroll them, humanity might rediscover entire lost chapters of thought and history. But no tool seemed up to the task. That is, until the digital age offered a radical solution of reading without unrolling. The first breakthrough came through the use of X-ray micro-computed tomography, or micro-CT. Similar to medical CT scans, this technique allows researchers to peer inside the scrolls without physically disturbing them. By scanning them at extremely high resolution, scientists could reconstruct the inner structure in 3 dimensions, essentially creating a digital model of each scroll. This virtual unwrapping process allowed scholars to peel away digital layers of the scroll, revealing the folds and coils of papyrus hidden inside. Yet there remained a major problem: the ink itself. Unlike in many ancient manuscripts, the ink used in the Herculaneum scrolls was carbon-based, and made from soot. Since the papyri had themselves been carbonized by the eruption, the ink blended almost seamlessly with the background. On scans, it appeared nearly invisible. For years, this was the barrier. Virtual unwrapping gave access to the shape of the scrolls, but not the words they contained. Then came artificial intelligence. The programs were fed training algorithms on known samples of ancient writing, and researchers taught computers to recognize the faintest differences in texture and density between carbon ink and carbonized papyrus. The first stage was the scholars providing the system with labeled data, examples of Greek letters written in carbon ink on papyrus. This allowed the model to learn the subtle visual cues that distinguish ink from background. The next involved the trained AI examining the scrolls via 3D scans, pixel by pixel, flagging areas where hidden ink might exist. Lastly, when patches of ink were identified, pattern recognition algorithms assembled them into shapes of letters, words, and eventually entire passages of text. The results were astonishing. Where the human eye saw only grey swirls and blackened fibers, the AI detected letters, alpha, beta, gamma, and more, emerging faintly but unmistakably from the darkness of history. In 2023, the breakthrough reached public attention through the Vesuvius Challenge, a global competition launched by computer scientists Brent Seals and Nat Friedman. The challenge invited participants worldwide to use AI tools to detect letters in Herculaneum scroll scans. In early 2024, a team of young researchers succeeded in reading over 2,000 characters of continuous Greek text. The words turned out to be from a previously unknown philosophical work, possibly by Philodemus, reflecting on themes of pleasure and food. This was the first time in history that extensive passages had been recovered from a scroll without physically unrolling it. The success electrified the academic community. For the first time in centuries, voices that had been silent since antiquity were speaking again, and the technology is only improving. With better scans and more advanced AI models, researchers believe entire scrolls may soon be transcribed. The implications of this achievement are enormous. The Herculaneum library may contain works that have been lost for millennia, such as lost plays of Sophocles or Euripides, treatises by Aristotle, and histories that could reshape our understanding of the ancient world. Even if the collection turns out to focus mostly on philosophy, as evidence suggests, each new text is invaluable. Beyond content, the scrolls demonstrate the value of this new frontier in archaeology with the use of AI to unlock impossible artifacts. Technologies like virtual unwrapping and machine learning could be applied to other damaged texts, burnt manuscripts, waterlogged books, and even sealed letters from more recent centuries. Already, similar methods have been used to read hidden writing in the Dead Sea Scrolls and medieval palimpsests. For nearly 2,000 years, the Herculaneum scrolls embodied frustration. The knowledge was there, but unreachable. Today, they symbolize hope. With the marriage of imaging technology and artificial intelligence, we stand at the threshold of rediscovering an entire ancient library. The irony still remains. Machines of thought, built in the 21st century, are helping us read the thoughts of philosophers who lived 2 millennia ago. It is as though the present and the past have reached across time, one enabling the other to speak. The work is still just beginning, as hundreds of scrolls remain untouched, and each requires painstaking scanning and analysis, but the door has opened. What was once sealed by volcanic ash is now yielding to digital light. For historians, philosophers, and anyone who values the continuity of human thought, the message is clear. The silence of the Herculaneum scrolls is ending. With every new line of text revealed, we step closer to hearing the voices of antiquity, not in fragments, but in full. Despite the attention and speculation, many questions remain unanswered. Are all the scripts themselves truly a language, and without a bilingual reference like the Rosetta Stone, is absolute certainty possible? What do you think, perhaps, if it is not linguistic, then what exactly has the AI translated? Could the inscriptions be ceremonial symbols or mnemonic devices instead? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. To enjoy more exciting videos, click play on the video on your screen. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get notified when a new video is released.